All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, I'm tired of talking about it. I know y'all tired of hearing about it with this whole Chase Young situation, and it always sounds like he's so close. But Rivera had some interesting comments yesterday and earlier this week about Chase Young. Most notably, he said that he will play this season. And I mean, are you just saying because you expect to make the playoffs and he'll maybe play in the playoffs? Or are you saying he should be able to play some of these last couple of games? We have this upcoming 49ers game on Saturday. Then we have the Browns and then we have the Cowboys, and that's it. That's 3 available games. Does that mean Chase Young is going to start playing against the 49ers? Or is he just going to play the last 2 games? Is he going to end up just only playing 1 against the Cowboys? Or just are we going to sit him until next year? But Ron Rivera says that Chase Young will play this year. We're going to talk about a lot of the really important quotes that came from that. I'm also going to show y'all some practice clips, and I'm also give y'all what Chase Young said about his injury today as well. Also, Benjamin St. Juste said, like, declaratively that he's playing this Saturday against the 49ers. He will make his return after missing 3 games. So we got to dive into why that's so important. And of course, when we're talking about injuries, we got to do an overall injury update. So we're going to take a look at all of the Commanders' injuries, who looks like they will play, who may not play, and same thing for the 49ers because they have a laundry list of injuries as well, actually even worse than ours. But that's still a really good team. Do not take them lightly. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every game day for the live play-by-play analysis. I will be live streaming this upcoming game against the 49ers, of course, as well. And I will be live streaming every postseason game as well because I have not given up on the playoffs yet. We're still technically the 7th seed. We have everything in our own hands. It's up to us. All we got to do is go out there and win. Of course, it would be nice if some certain teams lost, like the Seahawks and Lions and the Giants, and I may do a video literally breaking down exactly who we need to be rooting for this upcoming weekend. But at the end of the day, our destiny is in our own hands. The ball is in our court. All you got to do is win and you're in the playoffs, independent of what other teams do. But yeah, man, make sure y'all pull up every game day for the live stream. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, let's start with the Chase Young update. Rivera was asked about how close Chase Young was to playing against New York specifically. He said, quote, "He was close. It's one of these things that he'll continue to work on. We'll see how he's doing. I know he saw Dr. Andrews today and it was all positive. We're feeling really good and we'll see how he does Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week," unquote. Pretty much sounds like the same gibberish that we've been getting from Rivera this whole time. He's close. We'll see. Whole bunch of just the same typical words over and over again. But the really interesting thing was when Rivera was asked if Chase Young will play this season, Rivera said, "Oh yeah." Like, obviously, like, it's just so obvious. How come y'all didn't know that type of thing? And so I was taken aback by that. I'm like, what do you mean, oh yeah? He made it sound like we should definitely know that Chase Young is going to play sometime this season. So that's exciting. But of course, like I've talked about in previous videos where I've gone really in depth on it, is it worth even bringing him back these last couple of games? If he's 100% and you know for a fact he's 100%, and at this point, I mean, you never know. As much as of an impact Kayvon Thibodeau had in that Giants game, and he's literally the reason they won that game along with the refs, along with Scott Turner, Taylor Heineke, and the offensive line struggling. It was multiple things, but if you subtract Kayvon Thibodeau from that game, even with as bad as Heineke and inconsistent as Scott Turner was, and as sad as our offensive line was at pass protecting, we still win that game, even with the refs cheating, if all you take away is Kayvon Thibodeau. So my point is, if Rivera was close enough to play against the Giants, he should have, because he could have had a similar impact even if he only played very few amount of snaps, a very limited amount of snaps. And so I feel like if he's 100%, you know for a fact that he's 100% healthy, I say he should play the last couple of games this season, even if we don't make the playoffs, even if we get to the point that Sam Howell's our starting quarterback, because it's like, why not? We're already out of the playoffs. Might as well go ahead and see what he can do, even though I don't think mathematically that would ever happen. Maybe against the Cowboys, worst case scenario, we would be in that situation, because even if we were to lose against the 49ers and the Seahawks and the Lions win, we're still in range to make the playoffs. At that point, we're dependent on other teams to lose, but it's not like we're officially out of the playoffs. So I don't really see a Sam Howell starting versus the Browns situation happening, maybe against the Cowboys type of thing. But my point is, I still think it's worth it for Chase Young to go out there and to build some confidence, take some of that into the offseason. Even if we don't make the playoffs, I think he should play. Again, only if you know for a fact he's healthy. And at this point, with as much as we've held him out, which is my Kayvon Thibodeau point, I mean, he should have been there in that game against the Giants. He could have impacted that game at a high enough level to maybe it tilts towards our favor with the game being that close. So it seems like, to me, they're being extremely cautious, and if anything, even being overly cautious. And for Rivera to feel like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to play this season, let him play. Because again, if he can go out there and make a couple of plays, get a strip sack, maybe at least just once before the end of the season, that's the type of confidence that he can take into the offseason, into the next regular season. That's really just, you can't put a price tag on it. That's just too valuable. It would show him like, okay, I can explode off my knee. I still got it. These little pass rush moves that I learned from Von Miller during the previous offseason, I'm putting them to use, and I feel like I can do it. You know what I'm saying? That's just the type of confidence and experience that you really can't replace by him just sitting on the sideline. And then here's Chase Young moving around at practice this week, and you be the judge of it. But Rivera was also asked about getting Chase Young out there, and as far as like the urgency of wanting to get him out there with only 3 games left, Ron Rivera said, quote, absolutely, I think so. I think that for everybody, for that matter, we're in a very precarious situation right now. We have half a game lead over a couple of teams, and the key though is we got to focus in on and taking care of them one at a time. We got a big game coming up this Saturday. We got a couple of key guys that are hopefully ready to come back from injury, and we get them out onto the field so they can help us out. I mean, we need all hands on deck. This is what you live for. This is the crunch time of it, and you gotta want to be there, and you gotta want to be a part of it and do whatever you can to get on the field. Hopefully some of these guys are healthy enough and ready to go, because we're not going to expose anybody that's not ready. But if a guy can come in and make it and be out there to help us, we sure love to have them on the field, unquote. So sounds like he's talking about the team in general, but Chase Young specifically is who he's mainly talking about, and it's basically saying, you know, if he can go out there, we're definitely going to get him out there. We don't care what the situation is as far as making the playoffs. We want to see Chase Young on that field. All hands on deck type of mentality. And then also, here's Chase Young talking about his injury in the locker room for a couple of minutes.
Good practice today. So just still taking it day by day.
Is there anything that held you back from playing last week that you could put a finger on or share?
Nah, not really. Just being patient. Having patience. That's all.
When you look back to even a few weeks, can you notice a marked difference in just confidence, strength, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's going to come. It should happen just like it been. Just like it's came out, this whole process. Every day I feel like I'm getting better. Every day I feel like I'm getting stronger, more comfortable. So just got to keep on continuing that.
Is it frustrating at all to be on the sidelines during this stretch?
Definitely. I want to play with my brothers, go out there and fight, you know, to them.
Do you feel different this week?
What you mean by different?
Do you more ready to play? Does it feel closer to playing?
Definitely. But, you know, we got a good plan. I'm just sticking to that.
How much is the discussion like? I mean, it's a monster game, the Giants Sunday Night Football, but I know you won't play in this league for another 10 years. You're balancing those things.
Yeah, man. You know, well, I'm gonna be at my feet at.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So, that's where I'm at. It's gonna come.
Ron said that he wants to see you be able to cut loose and kind of just go. Is that something you feel like you've been able to accomplish this week, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think I did. So, you know, like I said, I had a good practice today, and she was taking them off.
I asked Ron the other day if there was anything he wishes he had done differently in this process for you. Is there anything you wish had gone differently in this process?
Nah, I'm good with everything, you know. I wish it was a faster process in general, but it is what it is. But, nah.
Did the conversation with Dr. Andrews the other day, did that help give you some more confidence, or is there anything from that you had kind of took from that?
Yeah, it went great. Dr. Andrews, that's my guy. So, came and checked me out. Went great. Just saying, keep sticking to the plan.
Was that planned, or was that something that after not playing the last couple of weeks that you came back and
that was planned?
Would you have wanted people to know the full extent of your injury? Just to know that this is something that takes a while to overcome?
Also, Ian Rappaport has some interesting things to say December 19th, 2 days ago on Monday. He said, quote, that they're all on the same page now as far as Ron Rivera, Chase Young, and the overall team, the doctors, and everybody. So that sounds like to me they weren't on the same page at one point in time, but now I guess they are. So I don't really know what to do with that information for real. I don't know if that makes me happier or not. And then there was also another interesting quote from his clip. He said, quote, they got to get Chase Young to trust his knee, unquote. So it sounds like it's a matter of Chase Young being able to trust his own knee and being able to explode off of it and not overthinking things. So maybe he's a little bit healthier than we think as fans, but at the same time, he hasn't learned to be able to just ignore his knee problems. Kind of like Curtis Samuel last year, where he was banged up, but it was really the process of learning to trust your body and to know that if I explode off this knee right now, it won't just completely split in half. And that's a really difficult thing to get over, especially if the pain is still very close to mind, still right in the front of your brain. You can remember it vividly. I understand, but that's a really interesting point to all of this, because I was thinking that maybe he just straight up wasn't 100%. But now this adds another wrinkle. Even if he is healthy enough to play, is he mentally ready enough to go out there and do it? So that's really interesting. And then moving on to a general injury update. First of all, Benjamin St. Juste, like I already said in the intro, said that he's playing against the 49ers. I haven't necessarily heard it from Ron Rivera or anybody yet, but he himself said he's playing. It sounded like he was close to playing against the Giants, but then again, close to playing against anybody. We've been seeing that for the past 5 weeks with Chase Young, so I don't know how much to believe that. But as far as our injuries go, you still have Sadiq Charles with a concussion injury, did not participate in Tuesday's practice or Wednesday's. On the Commander side, apparently everything that went down Tuesday is the exact same status for Wednesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, Cameron Curl, Antonio Gibson, Andrew Norwell, Benjamin St. Juste, and Chase Young were all limited. And then Brian Robinson with a quad injury was full. And just to let you know, Cameron Curl has an ankle injury. But from the looks of it, it sounds like he should be able to play against the 49ers. I haven't heard any commotion about him potentially not being able to play. So I think we can be optimistic about Cameron Curl, Antonio Gibson, maybe even Andrew Norwell. And it sounds like Benjamin St. Juste is letting it be known, I'm playing this Saturday. And of course, Antonio Gibson's been dealing with the same foot injury for weeks now, and he always ends up playing. But Cameron Curl's ankle injury is new. Andrew Norwell is still dealing with the same shoulder injury that he dealt with entering the Giants game, and he played every snap, so there's nothing to worry about there. And again, Benjamin St. Juste has missed 3 games with a mid-ankle sprain, and it sounds like he's gonna play, according to him. And then who knows with Chase Young, man? Who knows? Also on our end, Samuel Cosmi was cleared to play against the Giants, but didn't play a single snap Sunday night against the Giants. Not exactly sure why, but Rivera said in his press conference after practice that he expects second-year offensive lineman Samuel Cosmi back into the rotation mix after not playing a single offensive snap last week in his return from an ankle injury, because he was dealing with the ankle injury for a few weeks, and then he was cleared to go against the Giants. Again, didn't play a single snap, and we're assuming that he's gonna play at tackle, but who knows. Then linebacker Jamin Davis, he tore a ligament in his thumb on November 6th against the Vikings. He played 100% of snaps against the Giants, even after just having surgery just 2 weeks ago. He's good to go. Don't have to worry about him. And then tight end Curtis Hodges, the undrafted free agent tight end, 6'8", got it. A lot of us really liked throughout training camp, but then he ended up going to IR with the thigh injury. He was designated to return from IR yesterday and had a full practice today. So it sounds like he's probably going to be elevated to the official 53-man roster and may even be able to contribute in this upcoming game against the 49ers. I feel like at the very latest, we should see him as the Browns game. I need an update on my boy, Armani Rogers. Where my boy at? And before we move on to the 49ers, I just think it's amazing that if you really think about it, the way that Jack Del Rio's getting this defense to perform, you don't have defensive line-wise Chase Young, linebacker-wise Cole Holcomb for pretty much half the season, and then secondary-wise Benjamin St. Juste. So every phase of the defense, you're missing key players, and the defense is still going out there and playing as well as they are right now. You got to remember that we lost this game against the Giants while only allowing 13 offensive points the entire game. And the same thing with the previous game. Remember, one touchdown came off of a strip sack, and then the Giants scored on offense soon after that. But as far as what we can blame on the defense for real, they've only allowed 26 total points against the Giants between both of these games. One resulted in a tie, one resulted in a loss, which is just a shame. This defense deserves better. And just the fact that they're working without all of these players and still figuring it out is amazing in itself. And also, before we get to this 49ers injury report, Pete Haley had a really interesting tweet that's really something we need to keep in the back of our minds when we watch this game. He said, Commanders 49ers will feature the league's two most ball-dominant teams. Washington is first in the league with time of possession with 32 minutes 44 seconds per game, while San Francisco is second with 32 minutes 10 seconds per game. So we got to see who's going to be the one that ends up losing that matchup. Is it going to be the unstoppable force or the immovable object? Something has to give. Both teams cannot have 32 minutes time of possession in this game. Unless it goes into overtime, of course. Which I really hope doesn't happen. Please no. Also, Curtis Hodges took over Sammis Reyes' old number, and he is now number 80. Now let's get to the 49ers. They have a very extensive injury report, man. It is crazy. Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, out with a foot injury. He's gone for the rest of the season. I don't even know why they still have him on the injury report. You have Kenny Givens, the defensive lineman, and Kerry Hyder, another defensive lineman, did not participate in practice. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel, I doubt he plays against us. Tackle Trent Williams, he had a rest day, so I'm expecting him to play, but he didn't participate in Tuesday's practice. Then you have defensive lineman Eric Armstead, running back Christian McCaffrey, defensive back Tarvarius Moore, quarterback Brock Purdy, cornerback Ambry Thomas, and cornerback Travarius Ward. All of those guys were limited in practice on Tuesday. But good news for the 49ers, wide receiver Danny Gray and cornerback Samuel Womack were all full participants on Tuesday. But again, we're dealing with a lot of injuries, but the 49ers are arguably dealing with even more, so there's no excuses. None at all. I know our offensive line is getting shuffled around like crazy, but I mean, Deebo Samuel's unlikely to play. They're now down to their third string quarterback, and I mean, I still say the same thing over and over again. It's crazy that people feel like Sam Howell couldn't play, but Brock Purdy's out here balling out, and Sam Howell is easily more talented than the guy. Granted, Scott Turner isn't Kyle Shanahan, but I think Sam Howell could make up enough of the difference just by him being more talented alone. But hey, that's an argument for another day. But yeah, man, I mean, even Brock Purdy, they're on to their third string quarterback, and even he's hurt. Their star running back that they traded all of those picks for are hurt. Several defensive linemen, several players in the secondary. It's ugly for them as well, so there's literally no excuse going into this 49ers game at all. Also, shouts out to Nikki Javala for this tweet, for bringing it to my attention. Dave Baldwin just went to the Chicago Fire FC. He was the Commanders' chief ticketing officer for just under 2 years. He's one of at least 16 members of senior leadership or VPs to voluntarily leave or be let go by the team since the start of the 2021 year. That is crazy. One of 16 within less than 2 years. That's actually really crazy. That's ridiculous turnover, and the owner's going to be added to this list very soon, hopefully. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Of course, let me know how you feel about this whole Chase Young situation. How do you feel about this Benjamin St. Juste situation, the Commanders' overall injury situation? How do you feel about the 49ers situation? Do you agree with me with the fact that there's no excuses? Even with all of the injuries that we have, they have just as many, if not more. There's no excuse going into this game. And man, without further ado, I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.